Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference in setup for different types of swings and what things you do differently. So, I think most people know this, but with a putting stroke, and this is actually kind of interesting for putting because if you're practicing your putting stroke with this, you're going to just rock your shoulders. You're not going to be inclined to try to use your arms, which people do, use their arms to putt. But you want a completely stable lower body and then just rock your shoulders. So it's a good, to just feel what a putting stroke should feel like. This works well. Just rocking your shoulders, keeping everything square to path, so you don't want to have any rotation. And I made this shirt so as a visual reference. So pay attention to these elements when you set up and swing the trainer. See what's happening, so you can relate the feeling of that to what's happening also visually. So a lot of people will have inclinations to do little things that you don't really need to do. So stable lower body, a little bit of a rock. Now, next thing you do is like very, small wedge shots, like 10 yards, 20 yards, getting a sense of feel for how much energy to put on that. So here's how that is going to look, both the swing and the setup. So the difference in the setup from a full shot is, from a full shot, people keep their head behind the ball and have some spine tilt usually, and shifting, and a lot of things that produce power but aren't good for having kind of a low power controllable swing. So the way you want to actually set up is pretty vertical. If you're trying to hit a little 10-yard wedge, set it pretty vertical. See this as vertical and then rotate it slightly open. That'll give you sort of access to release the club this way. So a little bit rotated open, and if I looked it down on this, you look straight down your chest, it should seem vertical, and it should land a few inches in front of the ball. So I set it that way. And then this one, the backstroke is not so much unlike putting in that you're just sort of tossing it back to the right amount of energy, but the difference here is when you come through, you want to rotate everything through, so that will keep the club square and moving at the same rate as your hands, which I think is important. So you don't want to have to worry about this extra action. There is some release, but I think generally speaking you want to be moving the club head in your hands. You don't want a lot of hinge and release. It has to be gradual and smooth through the whole swing. So again, that's a way to minimize and make controllable the amount of force you're putting in the ball. So watch the setup again. I'm going to be rotated a little open, pretty horizontal with my shoulders, or vertical with my spine. And so you can see if I practice that, the club is just going to bottom in the right place, right? If I set up like I would for a full shot, where I get myself behind the ball and add some tilt and try to do a small shot, my club's going to bottom out back here. And so then I have to try to manufacture something to get up there. In a full shot, I'll shift, rotate, and move the bottom of my swing up here, but I don't want to do all those extra things. So set up a little bit square, vertical, slightly open. You can be more narrow too. I have that, gotta get out of that habit. Narrow stance, so I'm not really able to move back and forth. So stable, narrow stance. Just toss it up. Nice clean contact. Nice controllable amount of distance there. So a 20-yard shot. And then the distance is controlled by toss it, feel it drop a little bit. That's important too. So you don't want to start adding power that way. You want to go with the club. So the amount of energy is entirely dependent on the size of the backswing and what gravity then brings into the ball, basically. So a little bit forward, small toss, turn through with it. That's how you get a nice, reliable little swing where it bottoms where you want it to. So it's really important, again, I'm going to say this again, get your center of your swing a little bit in front of the ball. Otherwise, it's almost impossible to have consistent, controllable contact. So then I'll just do the full swing as well, since I'm doing the 3 swings, I guess. So full swing. Some people set up more vertical and add tilt. I kind of like myself to start with a tilt. It just seems like I kind of know where I'm going, and I just come back to it. So I would set up now, moving my center more behind the ball to start the swing. And this one, so I'm going to set up, see, you can see with a little tilt. Again, these are a reference for my triangle of my arms, and so I want to return that squareness related to how my arms are working to the ball. So this one, I like to heave up. Then what's different is I am throwing my weight back, coming back forward. Now I've moved the center where I need it to be, and because I'm rotating aggressively, the club bottom's where I need it to. So you can see that my head is staying behind the ball, and I'm coming in with some spine tilt here. So those are basically the 3 patterns. So this one, there's a separation. The lower body pulls everything through rather than just moving passively through the shot. So those are kind of the 3 swings. And then of course there's all sorts of other specialty swings that, you know, great players know. But those are the basics. If you can get your center just a little forward for a partial wedge, you can have a very completely stable lower body for putting. And if you can keep yourself behind the ball and come in with the proper amount of spine tilt for a full shot, those are the basics.